Okay, you join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we start today's meeting, I'd like to talk about our process. The meeting is being conducted in person as well as by phone and Zoom. This allows participation in person or remotely. We will conduct a roll call to determine who is present. Throughout the meeting, we will call on individual planning commissioners to make sure that everyone has had a chance to be heard. Planning commissioners, please state your name and address prior to any motion or vote. We will conduct a similar process for comments from the public. We'd like to thank everyone for their understanding and patience. Minutes and audio recording will be available on the Planning Commission website. Call the meeting to order. I call this meeting of the Crook County Planning Commission to order. Today's date is September 10th, 2025. Time is 4:01 p.m. People joining me are your Crook County Planning Commissioners. We are volunteers that have been appointed by the Board of County Commissioners and make up a diverse cross-section of the community. Planning Commission will consider the following agenda items. Meeting minutes from February 26, 2025. Work session, transportation system update. Next is a roll call for the Planning Commissioners. Frank Cook. Here. George Pont. Marlo Dill.
Here.
Aquita Steck.
Here.
Hunter Newhart.
Here.
Oh, he is there. Look at that.
I am.
The voice from afar. Kurt Giovanni. Here. Les Williamson. Here. And Michael Ward is here. For commissioners who are absent, will staff please indicate for the record whose absences are excused or unexcused?
George is excused.
Okay. Is there anyone in the meeting room or participating remotely that wishes to address an item not on the agenda? If attending remotely, please enter a request to speak in the chat function. Do you have any public members?
No.
All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll now mute all phone lines of those who are not staff or commissioners, and we'll move forward to the first agenda item. So the minutes for February 26th. Everybody had a chance to review them? Has anybody had any questions, comments, or corrections?
Chairman, I move we approve the February 26 minutes.
Okay. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. Kurt?
Yeah.
Frank?
Yeah.
Marlo?
Aye.
Quita?
Yes.
Les?
Aye.
Hunter?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Work session. Commissioners now move into the work session with a presentation.
Commissioners, there we go. Let's kick this off and introduce Ryan Farncombe. He is as our consultant with parametrics. He and Aaron David have been doing heavy lifting on this for quite a long time. I can't remember if he's presented before you guys in the past, but Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, can you folks hear me?
Yep, I hear you great.
Can you see me?
No. That's what I was going to ask. Is
Yeah.
he have a presentation or?
He has a presentation. I think the presentation can be shown.
Yeah, it looks like I can't show my video, but you know, you can hear me at least.
You don't, Ryan, you don't have any.
Oh, wait, there we go.
One, right?
Sure.
Oh, she got to work. We have security concerns with having calls on video these days.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I can, let me bring up the presentation here, John. All right, can you all see that?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Great. Sorry, I'm just arranging my screen so I can both see you all and have my presentation up. Thanks folks for taking the time tonight to talk about the transportation system plan. So as John mentioned, we've been at this for a while, about 1.5 years now, actually, to update the county's previous transportation system plan. And we're now at the point that we have a draft plan for consideration by you all and by the board as well. So what I'd like to go through tonight is an overview of the transportation system plan. You know, it's a decent sized document, so I'm not going to walk through every single page of it because I don't want to do that to you. But I do want to give you the highlights of what the proposed projects are and things like that that are in the plan. And then I know this is a work session, so really our intent is to hear from you all about do we have it right as we advance this towards adoption. And feel free to interrupt me at any time during the presentation. I don't think we need to hold questions to the end or anything like that. So just a little bit of background. So what is a transportation system plan? So counties in Oregon above a certain population are generally required to have one by state law, and they need to look out about 20 years to plan for not just the issues that need to be addressed on the transportation system today, but also what we anticipate in the future. And so the TSP prioritizes projects and programs to address the issues and needs we've found during this process. And so a few of the things that this process are focused on, one is just enhancing connections and improving safety, especially for everybody, no matter how they travel. Addressing safety in particular around the Powell Butte community. And then another aspect that's been a major element of the project is near and long-term options for improving access to the Juniper Canyon area. And the county's previous TSP was adopted in 2017. But one of the reasons we're updating it now, which is, 8 years has passed, but that's not that long in the grand scheme of things. But growth has seriously outpaced the projections that underlie that previous TSP in the last 10 years. So the county is growing substantially. And so we wanted to update this transportation system plan to address those needs and as the county continues to grow. So quickly on the decision-making process. So just to note that we've had a project advisory committee that's met a few times, and they're also going to review the draft TSP. And that's a group composed of different representatives of the community that we've gone to bounce ideas off and get their feedback on throughout the process. The project management team has been me and John and Katie and Aaron David on our team. We're the kind of the core people working on the project. And then you all are tasked with reviewing the transportation system plan and making a recommendation to the commissioners about how to move forward, whether to adopt the TSP as it is, or a recommendation that includes potential changes as well to the commission. And then ultimately the commission decides on whether to adopt the updated document. I'm going through some of this kind of fast because there's a lot to get through. So just stop me if you have any questions. These here are the goals that kind of guided our TSP development throughout. And on the right here, and I'll talk about engagement in a second, is just a picture from one of our events up in the Juniper Canyon area where we've got pretty good turnout at our meeting. So in terms of engagement, we've met with the public a number of times. So the project advisory committee met a couple times, and again, they're going to review that TSP document by email. And then we had several engagement touch points that included in-person open houses at a couple of spots in the county. And then I think, John, we should also mention that in July of this year, it's not on here, but in July of this year, the county also held a meeting around Juniper Canyon as well. So really 4 touch points.
Ryan, that was actually August.
Oh, August, my bad. Sorry. So in total, more than 500 people either attended our event or responded to a survey, which is pretty good pretty good turnout and feedback for a transportation system plan process. Safety definitely came up as the main priority in terms of addressing transportation issues. And then I think it's safe to say that the two priorities we heard from the community emphatically were addressing the intersection of Powell Butte Highway and Oregon 126, which I'll talk about more in a few minutes, and then access to the Juniper Canyon area. Those are the two primary issues we heard the most about. A couple other things we heard about, definitely a desire to reduce speeding on county roadways. And we've got some tools and a toolkit for doing that. And then discussion around potential for funding, since, you know, the projects we have in here do have a price tag, and cutting to the chase, there's not a dedicated source of funding for transportation in the county. So we have a little bit more later on in the presentation about funding possibilities. Okay, so now I'm going to walk through some of the highlights. Again, not every single project in the TSP, but I want to walk through some of the highlighted projects that kind of represent what we heard the most about when we talked to the public. So first, kind of intersection and operation improvements. So like I said, the intersection of 126 and Powell Butte Highway, I'm sure you all know, and I can bring up a map too, but I'm sure you are very familiar with that intersection with where the post office is. There is an ongoing safety issue there. There's people trying to access the post office. There's delay, especially for people trying to turn onto 126 at certain times of day from Powell Butte Highway. And in the future, as traffic grows, the intersection is not going to meet the state's standards for congestion. So we reviewed a number of different ideas about to address this, and we landed on a single lane roundabout as the preferred alternative, which it does a couple of things. It slows speeds naturally, people approaching the intersection. It reduces traffic delay. It creates easier navigation into and out of the post office property. This also is in line with previous recommendations from the TSP as well. And here is just kind of a overview schematic of what that roundabout could look like and where it could be placed. This is just a concept diagram, right? That all of these projects would go through a design process before they're moved forward. Oh, one other thing I want to mention real fast, because there are a handful of roundabout recommendations in this CSP, is that they are, like this roundabout here was designed to accommodate the biggest trucks and vehicles that would be traveling on the road. So all of the large freight vehicles that use these corridors would be able to navigate these roundabouts. So another important area that we talked a lot about with folks is the 126 and Williams Road intersection. So again, this intersection is forecast not to meet ODOT standards for congestion in the future. There's the school there, and there's concerns about speeding and safety. And so the recommended alternative there also is a single lane roundabout. In the near term, we can also look at potentially adding some turn lanes to help separate traffic out a little bit at that intersection and improve safety that way too.
Brian, this is John. Can I interrupt for 1 second? Just a question. So Katie and I we had a meeting with ODOT recently, and they said that current prices for a single lane roundabout, you can't really do it for under $5 million. And so I see we still have 3.5 basically for these two roundabouts. Would it benefit us to update that number? Sorry for putting you on the spot. I did have an email typed out to you, but I got pulled away.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about so, you know, cost estimating is, especially at this early level design, right, is perhaps a little bit more art than it is science, right? And we definitely want to have reasonable cost estimates in there. But I mean, my counter to what ODOT says is that we built roundabouts for $2 million recently, right? So I understand where they're coming from, but I think we just want to land on what we think the most reasonable cost is. And if it's $5 million, then that's perfectly fine, right?
Thank you.
Did that answer the question, John?
Made me feel better. You guys built one for cheaper.
Got it.
I do I would almost wonder though, when we talk about a single lane, does that allow for like the slip lanes? Like they did, you know, I mean, that could be where
Yeah.
ODOT's thinking the higher cost. I don't know, just a question.
That's a good point. It really does depend on what the assumptions are, right? And the other thing that's a big cost driver is right away, right? If you have to buy a bunch of property, that can get really pricey. And so those factors are probably what's driving cost. So moving forward, we have 2 access projects in the Juniper Canyon area. One, I might bring up actually a different graphic here in a second. Give me 1 second. Oops. Okay, sorry, I screwed up something on my computer. 1 second. What I actually wanted to show you is, see if this works. Just trying to do it a different way. What I actually wanted to show you is this image. You guys can still see that map on the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
We went through a pretty robust process to look at a bunch of different alignments to address issues in Juniper Canyon, right? And there's a number of issues we're trying to address here. One of them is just that there's essentially one road in and out through Prineville, right, for a growing community in the county. There's thousands of people out there, and there's lots of lots out there that are yet to develop, right? So we know Juniper Canyon is going to keep growing. So there's one way in and out, and that also puts pressure on that single Juniper Canyon road, and also puts pressure on the roads in Prineville. The other issues we're trying to address with this are, besides congestion, are also occasionally Juniper Canyon can get closed due to collision or weather or what have you. And so that presents a concern about emergency access to the Juniper Canyon area when it is closed occasionally. And then another concern that the community has talked a lot about is evacuation during a wildfire event. And, you know, John, please feel free to chime on here too, that, you know, talking with fire officials, right, there's, you know, it's not necessarily the desire that everybody evacuate immediately during a wildfire event. And so there's actually a range of different tactics that would help address the issue around wildfire. One of them is potentially an additional evacuation route. But I'm just trying to acknowledge that the evacuation route isn't the only thing being discussed in terms of the wildfire risk up there.
But I'll step in again. We don't need to speak with the fire district. They're here tonight, so they can.
Oh, that's great.
Give their thoughts as well.
Yes. I say, does Russ want to add anything?
You want an hour when Ryan's done his presentation.
Russ, I feel like I put you on the spot every time, and I didn't even realize it this time.
I know, I'm everywhere. No, you're doing a good job. I'm just here to answer any questions, really when you get done with your presentation, so.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going on then. So anyway, so we looked at a variety of different access routes. All these yellow ones in here are ones we looked at. And based on feedback from the public and the commissioners and our PAC, and our technical analysis of what is feasible, right? We landed on a couple of proposed alignments for the transportation system plan. And one is this kind of northwest connection down to Crooked River Highway, if you can see my cursor. I'll bring the presentation back up in a second. And then the other is this E10, which essentially would add an eastern connection out to OR 380 to provide another route of egress in for the community. So those two are what are in the draft TSP. So the other, the cost of that W1 alternative, and again, that's connecting from Davis Road down to Crooked River Highway is estimated to be $9 to $20 million. So there's a substantial price tag with it. You know, a lot of the cost there is just because you have to get that road down from down into a steep canyon, right? And so there's a lot of grading involved. And then here again is the other alternative connecting east out to 380. This one, we estimated the cost to be $24 to $52 million. Again, I know it's a steep price tag. The cost there is being driven entirely by the amount of grading that would need to happen. It's there's decent topography out there, and to maintain roadway grades below about 10% and meet certain requirements to keep the curves not too sharp, right? It does require a lot of grading. So that is not to say that if you use different assumptions, that cost could come down, but based on the assumptions we used, that was the cost for that project. And then another project out in Juniper Canyon area is the intersection of 380 and Juniper Canyon Road. This intersection right here. There was a safety issue here, and we also found that in the future, it likely wouldn't meet the state's traffic congestion requirements. So we basically proposed a realignment and some lane changing and lane shifts and an acceleration lane to help manage the traffic there more safely. .126 and Parish Lane is another intersection, actually it's a handful of intersections along 126 where we've identified a safety issue for turning vehicles. And so the proposal here is basically adding a stretch of center turn lane on 126 between Stillman and Valley View roads. So widening the highway somewhat to provide a dedicated space for turning vehicles. I also want to note that there's a handful of bridges that the county is responsible for, and several of them are getting on in years. And so we're just memorializing in the transportation system plan that there are several highways, or bridges that are going to need to be replaced within the lifetime of this transportation system plan. So, as I mentioned, safety, strong focus of this project, and this map here on the right shows the intersections in the county where there was a safety issue noted. Safety issue meaning, like, for example, there were more collisions at a particular intersection than would be expected for an intersection of that type based on how much traffic's going through it. And then we also proposed some kind of corridor-wide safety improvements on several of the highways like 126. And then John and Aaron from our team are also leading a separate but related effort for the Transportation Safety Action Plan, which is building on the work of this process to flesh out more specific actions and projects to address safety in the county. This project at Powell and Bussett is something we talked quite a bit about actually with the PAC, the Project Advisory Committee. If folks are familiar with this intersection, this is where Powell Butte basically takes a 90-degree turn as you're heading north towards 126. The proposal here would realign Shumway and Bussett to a single point at Powell Butte Highway. Essentially to kind of stop people from treating the existing road as a speedway. We found that a lot of folks, for example, traveling north on Shumway aren't stopping when they're trying to get onto Powell Butte Highway. And so the intent here is to bring people to a stop and a 90-degree intersection that has good sight lines. The other thing we added here is, if you can see it, is an acceleration lane in both directions. So when you have those larger farm vehicles that need to take time to get up to speed, they have the time to do that from a stop. And here's just kind of a summary of some of the other general safety improvements around the corridor that include things like rumble strips in places, curve chevrons to indicate to drivers there's a curve coming up, speed feedback signs, lighting, things like that. Few other elements. So the transportation system plan does address every way of getting around, whether it's driving or walking, cycling, freight vehicles, transit. And so we did look at active transportation, meaning walking and biking or rolling. And so there's a few shared use paths proposed as part of the transportation system plan. And these are separate paths. So rather than like a sidewalk attached to a road or a bike lane, these are paths that are used by both people cycling and walking separate from the roadway. And we find that those are generally the most comfortable way for people to travel as opposed to putting people on the highway, right? So we have a number of those identified, and there is a dedicated state funding source for these projects as well. Just want to note that. And in a few places, we proposed adding basically paved or widened shoulders as well. Public transportation. So we're largely moving forward with Cascade East Transit's master plan, which includes a number of projects for the county. You know, one thing I want to note is that I think we heard a lot about dial-a-ride enhancements. So expanding the opportunities for dial-ride in the county, especially with older populations and folks who may not want to drive. That's an important service to make sure people still can get where they need to go. And then a couple of specific freight projects. One of them is to look at the railroad bridge over US 26. This would be in partnership with the city of Prineville because they own the railroad, to look at reconstruction potentially so that large vehicles can get through there, because right now not every vehicle can get under there. And then there's also a project to look at reconstruction of Bus Evans Road to better handle the kind of volume of freight traffic that's on that road. So I'll pause there. That was a lot. Thanks for bearing with me. Before I talk a little about funding and a couple other things, I don't have too much more to present, I promise. Did want to check in to see if there's any questions or comments about some of the projects I walked through.
Any questions? Maybe you're going to talk about this a little bit, but this is just nothing's been like communicated with BLM to say, hey, would this be potential? Has that part gone far? Are they? I just don't want to be looking at something where they've already said, oh no, we can't do this through here because there's allotments or whatever.
Yeah.
Brian, you want me to take that one?
Sure.
And I don't. So the idea came about as Commissioner Crawford has been speaking with Cliff Benz and Cliff Benz's representative for a few months about possibly getting some land from the BLM, and this was part of the. This is kind of why this idea came about, because we had the opportunity to maybe get some land from BLM for free, and so that's kind of where that idea originated. Also, with that, it was part of our Juniper Canyon meeting, was a safe space idea with basically 40-acre parcels and kind of some targeted spots around Juniper Canyon. Also BLM land that we would then get that would then act as a safe space for the citizens there, so they didn't have to evacuate all the way up. So BLM is aware, we've talked to them, but it's mostly been above their head to the fence.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. I just wonder how that would play in with the allotments more than I am with BLM. You know, so okay,
Good question.
just
Yeah.
curious.
We had a couple the project team had a couple conversations with BLM too about some of those Juniper Canyon alignments, like that would affect the Crooked River wild and scenic designation area, right? And so that helped focus in where things would actually be possible versus not, right?
I guess I got a question. So
Yeah.
on looks like the coming out of Polana Valley and right in that intersection of Juniper Canyon, looks like you want to go to Mark Stafford's field a little bit. Has there been any contact with them about it, or how would that go about? Because it looks like you're trying to narrow that corner up Juniper Canyon.
Oh, at the the intersection with, Plana Highway and, Juniper
Yep.
Canyon Road.
Yeah. Looks like you're
Yeah.
going over a creek or a little canal and then goes across part of his property on the edge.
Yeah, we didn't do any specific property owner outreach there, and, you know, again, that is a conceptual alignment. I mean, and there's a good chunk of right of way there, so things could well shift, right, when we get into an actual design process.
Okay.
So there won't be no intimate domain, because I noticed it on Tom Burke's, that's his piece where you're gonna put the roundabout there. What happens if he says, no, I don't want it there? Does that just take the whole project away? This is Kirk. Sorry.
So John, I'm gonna defer to you here. Like generally, we're not looking to do eminent domain on any of these projects. You know, I haven't worked on a project in a long time where that's had to happen. But John, I'll let you comment about this county's policy on that.
Yeah, I don't want to get over my own skis too much either, but I know that the county's policy is basically not to pursue an eminent domain. It's kind of a last resort, and optimally you're able to just negotiate if you need the space, you can negotiate it with the landowner. And so that would be first objective. Eminent domain is no fun.
So this is Les Williamson. I'm curious because the rough cost that we're talking about, 3.4 to 5 million, I assume that's based on today's construction costs. And one concern I would have is what that is going to be, and how it's going to be identified as a true cost before the project started.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, right? Because construction escalation's a huge deal, right? Construction costs have escalated, like the construction costs have almost doubled in the 5 years since 2020. So we put them all in a common, these are all in 2024 dollars. We put them all in a common year so that you can compare, make apples to apples comparisons amongst the projects, right? If this one's 5 million, this one's 20 million, if all things held equal and they were built tomorrow. If and when the county moves forward or ODOT moves forward on any of these projects on the state highway, right, they would develop a more refined concept and a refined cost estimate that would be, the cost estimate would be developed based on the anticipated year of construction. So that is when that cost escalation would be factored in.
Okay, thank you.
So this is Hunter speaking. So with these two other options for Juniper Canyon, JC1 and 2, and I'm kind of looking long term here. The more access you have up there, which is good for Juniper Canyon, we're going to get probably more construction, more builds up there, but that's not going to resolve our traffic through town in the future. Just thinking outside the box here, if there's a way to get them to have a closer way to get into Bend or Redmond, I'm just looking at how the traffic from west to east is always going to be there with the two options presented.
JC1 is designed to take a lot of the pressure off everybody taking that same intersection through downtown Prineville if they're going west. One of the options, and Ryan, you can speak on this, one of the options we looked at did go west down near the dam, and that was, it's all wild and scenic designation down there, and that the cost beyond that was astronomical. So there aren't a lot of easy options to get people west.
What about putting a toll bridge in, John?
Toll bridge?
Yeah, how many people live up Juniper Canyon? Is there 10,000 people up there?
I've heard 6 to 9,
6 to 9?
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, just add, we did look at a couple, I mean, it's a good point, right? That the options we have here one of them I think would help in terms of taking pressure off of Prineville. But it doesn't fully solve the issue, right? Because we don't have like a full bypass of the city as an alternative, just because, like John said, the couple of alternatives that would have dealt with that, I think were $100 million plus ventures. So just, we didn't feel that was in the realm of feasibility.
This is Katie. So the city is also going through a transportation system plan update that is addressing some of the concerns for in-town traffic, right? So again, even though we are looking at this on a county level, the city is also taking into account the change in demographics and the change in population that has come into play. So some of the congestion that you may see coming in, especially on Combs Flat, right, and at the Y, is most likely addressed. I have not read the city's TSP, so I'm not sure of the details. However, I do know they have those two intersections addressed. And by diverting some of that traffic and by managing flow within the city, it could help with moving traffic outside.
Now, Katie, I led Prineville's transportation plan too. I should have mentioned that. They, you're right, there's a couple of projects, you know, the city's got a couple of roadway extensions that will provide new parallel routes to 3rd Street. And then there's a big project, you know, it's long-term, but it would reconstruct the Crooked River Bridge and the whole West Y kind of tangle of highways at the west end of town to make that work a lot better. So.
This Mike, hey, and just a question, why do all the roads going west are I guess cost out to be paved, all the ones going east gravel?
You're talking just for June, or are you talking?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, the access is, like all the ones going west would be paved roads, which obviously adds to cost, but the ones going east would just be gravel. It's just a question.
So the JC one is a road that's intended for day-to-day use and emergency services. The road going east is strictly a seasonal, at least what we're looking at, would be strictly a seasonal evacuation route. And cost obviously plays a big factor there too.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah.
I would imagine grade probably factored into that as well, doesn't it?
Ryan, you want to speak to how grade factor?
So I didn't, what was the question? I didn't hear it.
I would imagine that this Monty, that grade factors into whether you are required to pave it or not, no?
No, oh, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, so we kept the same grade requirements. I think it's 10%. It was more that, you know, the paved road is also wider, right? Because you want shoulders on it. For the east side alternatives, we assumed a 20-foot gravel because, again, like John was saying, we were expecting it really to be used just occasionally and not every day.
Gotcha. Okay. So
Brian, oh, sorry, go ahead.
the potential of trying to do both, have one that's relieves the access coming in from the southeast and another one for emergency, possibly. So it's not one or the other. Or it could be, just doesn't matter.
I don't think there's, on the one or the other thing, it doesn't seem like there's a silver bullet that solves all the needs that we have on that. So it seems like it has to be one solution.
Has Ryan, this is Kirk, has anybody looked into having our county build that road? Cause we have rock pits up there and could like ease the cost. I bet or we could also pay ourselves to save money.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways that we could value engineer that road. And, you know, John, that's one thing we could look at before this is all said and done is, you know, we have these, you know, there's, I think over 1 million square yards or million cubic yards of grading anticipated with the east option, right? And so, you know, first of all, is our cost for grading the right cost we want to be using? Maybe there's an assumption that it's county or somebody else doing it and we can assume a lower cost. So there's some of those things we can look at to bring down the sticker shock a little bit on some of those, right?
But I can share that before we got that cost estimate, we figured the number would be lower than it came in at. And then after we got the number, I don't know if I've shared this with you yet, Ryan, but Brad Haynes from our road department still thinks we can do it he thinks 25 is at the high end. But there are contractors here that do that work pretty well, so. It's still pretty low, but the $2 million number is on the safe side.
Okay, this is Hunter. So with these Juniper Canyon roads being graveled, are we gonna have to, how long or how often are we have to maintain them? And do you know what the projected costs are gonna be?
We did not project long-term maintenance costs for a gravel road. I mean, kind of anecdotally, assuming that it's a road that's not used heavily, right? It's going to be, I think the maintenance costs would be less than other comparable gravel roads that are used to access people's properties every day, right? John, I don't know if you got anything else there.
Just that at least that east evacuation route wouldn't be maintained or plowed in the wintertime. But as far as ongoing maintenance goes, we haven't gotten that far yet, Hunter.
Okay, thank you.
So this is Katie. I just want to bring us back to the transportation system plan. So I'm hearing a lot of like this number and how can we reduce costs? And if I'm hearing Ryan, understanding him correctly, these are just projected numbers. If and when that project makes it to the top of the project list that's included in the transportation system plan, those will be evaluated at that time for cost. Right, so even though it may be a certain cost that they're estimating to give us an idea, the transportation system plan and creating this hierarchy within the county's transportation allows for those projects to, if funding becomes available, they are already included in a plan so that it can be potentially funded in some way. So I just kind of want to bring that back to, this is a much larger funding issue of the county. As of now, we don't have a dedicated funding stream to do any capital improvement projects. The bridges, the roads, the pedestrian trails, the routes in and out of Juniper Canyon, whether they're emergency gravel or paved. So the dollar amount and what we can do it for at the time of construction could potentially be very different than what you're looking at here.
Thank you, Katie. That's excellent point. And I think that is going to tie into what Ryan's going to come up with next. But yeah, so the purpose of, my understanding, the purpose of this document at this time is to identify what are the county's largest transportation priorities, and to set the hierarchy, like you said, and to have some type of ballpark of what it's going to cost, so the county can, over the next 20 years, say, all right, we need $192 million to make these improvements. Figure out a way to start funding them, and then as it's time for each one, then we take a closer look and we get the planning and design, and then we have a hard number, and then we're able to make whatever type of adjustments we need to. So at this stage, it's a broad view. What does the county need over the next 20 years, and kind of what's the hierarchy? Back to you, Ryan.
Yeah, back to you.
So I'll keep moving through the since we're talking about funding, I'll keep talking about funding. So total TSP project costs, just north of $100 million. And again, as we were just discussing, these are planning level cost estimates. So these would get refined if and when the projects move forward. There's a lot of projects that would be either led or in partnership with ODOT, because of the state highways running through the county. Right around a third, 25% of the projects would be in partnership with ODOT, and the rest are locally led, meaning the county would lead them, or in some cases, right, a developer may contribute in some way, right? For example, the Powell Butte Highway 126 intersection, I know there's an existing agreement around that. And to reiterate, no dedicated source of funding at this time, but the county is very good and creative at getting grants and other kinds of funding, of which there are a variety out there for these kinds of projects. So I won't go through this in any great detail, but there are a number of opportunities. One that I think the county's used in the past is the Federal Lands Access Program, because there is federal land in Crook County. That does open up a pot of money at the federal level to build projects, either directly or indirectly improve access to federal land. So that could be a lot of different kinds of things. And then potential local funding options. There's a whole range of things, including some things on this list we didn't include here, but system development charge is one potential funding mechanism. This is a one-time charge assessed to new development based on their anticipated transportation impact. So sometimes communities levy these charges on like a per housing unit basis or a per trip generated by a given land use. And then those funds have to be used for improving the transportation system. In some cases, a developer or development might end up building some improvements. The county also has a general fund that can be used to fund transportation, but I think as we all know, the general fund has a lot of demands on it, right? There's also a number of different districts that you can form. So special roads districts or local improvements districts that can be dedicated towards funding and financing different kinds of improvements in the TSP. So stepping back just one notch, like, so how does this stuff actually get done, right? If we're talking about a really small project that's relatively low cost, right, that's something that the county or county staff could potentially lead, right? Maybe it's shoulder restriping, for example. Major projects almost always require, you know, building a coalition to get people all on the same page that this thing needs to happen, right? Whether it's a particular intersection on 126 or it's a Juniper Canyon project. And those projects always take multiple years to complete, right? You have to design them, you have to keep talking to the public and build that coalition and the case for funding. There's also sometimes a new grant source pops up and it all of a sudden becomes a great opportunity to get a project in the hopper. And then again, development and developers present an opportunity to work with them on improvements as well. So next steps, and that'll be done. So we've got the hearing coming up to adopt the TSP based on any changes that this group would recommend. And then the Board of Commissioners will meet on the 1st and the 15th, the first and second reading to adopt. And then based on any comments or changes requested, we'll update the TSP and the county will have that document ready. And again, the main value in this document is having memorialized these needs so that the county can go out and wave it in front of funders and say confidently, we've said we need this project, look, it's in our plan, you know, let's move forward. That is one of the principal ways I see this TSP being used. So. Any other questions or anything else I left out, John or Katie?
Covered pretty well, Ryan. Thank you.
Any other questions? Russ, you good with it?
Obviously, a lot of the dialogue in the county's TSP surrounds Juniper Canyon. And the dialogue specifically to Juniper Canyon really focuses on much of the conversation around Juniper Canyon has really focused on two aspects. And to John's point earlier, you know, no silver bullet solves both of them because really at the end of the day, they're two completely different topics. One is access, livability, the day-to-day functionality of Juniper Canyon and how it interacts with the city of Prineville and beyond. And that's really one complete long discussion about what is the best option to solve that problem. And then there is another question about whether or not Juniper Canyon needs an emergency access for life safety. And if that is true, the best options for that discussion are much different than the first question. And so there really are two completely separate topics. You'll see in your packet here, you've heard me talk at public meetings if you've been there. I'll say it again, today. We do not have a life safety threat. No one is going to die in Juniper Canyon because we don't have a second way out of Juniper Canyon. So Juniper Canyon Road, Davis Loop, all the other large collectors in Juniper Canyon provide a lot of opportunities for folks to move out of the way of an emerging wildfire threat that's moving through there. There are opportunities to really move people out of the way. We had a significant wildfires, you probably all know, the Highland Fire in Juniper Canyon this summer. Juniper Canyon Road functioned just fine. With the evacuations that were in place, there was a little congestion down at the stop sign where it intersects with Powell Butte Highway, but that was quickly alleviated. But the roadway itself functioned as designed and maintained capacity for folks to come in and out of Juniper Canyon during that time. So you'll see in the report that the fire district has not gone on record saying that we have to have a secondary access out of Juniper Canyon for life safety reasons. And so that's why the TSP doesn't say that. I'm happy to answer any questions when it comes to that. The fire district has encouraged the folks that live in Juniper Canyon to really focus more so where I think the problem lies. So we've been out there and have done several, probably almost maybe 150 defensible space assessments for folks in the Juniper Canyon area over the last 9 months, talking to folks about how to improve their defensible space, how to create safety zones on their own properties to keep them and their loved ones safe. Because really the conversation we think should start at, can you get out of your house? Then can you get down your driveway? And then can you get out of your subdivision? And then can you get down Juniper Canyon Road? Because there's a lot of subdivisions in Juniper Canyon that only have one way in. And that's really where I see from a professional standpoint, we're gonna have issues. It's not once people make it to Juniper Canyon Road. If you look at the Marks Creek fire that's been burning for the last week, 1,700 acres, it's burning right along a major US highway, US 26, has not been shut down one time in the last 2 weeks while that fire's been burning immediately adjacent to the roadway. And so we'd see similar things along Juniper Canyon Road where maybe for a short period due to smoke or whatnot, we would have to stall traffic, but would it be impassable? No. And so I think that's really where the fire district has had lots of good conversations with folks, with the county. They've been excellent listening partners to us and our perspective. But I just wanted to come speak on behalf of the district itself and see if the commission had any questions about that. It's a very passionate topic, as you can imagine. There are folks that feel very passionate on both sides of that. And the fire district just wants to have good conversations with everybody and just help alleviate concerns, questions, fears, you name it. So open to any questions.
I'll just add on to what Russ said, and I want to thank Russ for his help as we've been working through this. I'm pretty new to this position, definitely relative to the Juniper Canyon issue, and so I leaned on him a lot for his wisdom. At the Juniper Canyon meeting that we had, it was about the TSP, but we had Russ there and we had OSU Forestry Extension talking about how to protect your own property. We had BLM there with a new permit program. Brand new that they were extending to the people of Juniper Canyon after discussions with them that would allow them to go onto BLM land and clear out the perimeter of BLM's land surrounding the people's property. We have the safe space idea, all these kind of things that go with what Russ said, that the best solution isn't always just to jump on the road and try to get out of there with everybody else. The best thing is to protect your property and then have somewhere safe that you can go if you need to. And that was kind of the focus of the presentation.
Russ, how much did it cost for all those bull ride planes to put that fire out? I mean, they were there, how many millions of dollars did that cost? And without them, could you have got that fire under control?
So, great question. Would we've been able to get the fire under control without the planes? Fires always go out. So the answer is yes. Now, how far does it go and what happens in the meantime? That's really more the question, I think, probably, Kirk. But
Right.
the fire, to really answer your question maybe not a direct fashion, the fire did exactly what I thought the fire would do. So the fire burned with terrain and wind, until the evening came, the humidities came up, and we were able to quell it. We live in a fantastic area. We have, BLM, Forest Service, and Oregon Department of Forestry ware yards in Prineville. So we historically get a tremendous response and support from our federal and state wildland partners. And the Highland Fire was no different to that. And all of that is really factored into the fire district's perspective on this. In what do we expect to happen when the fire occurs? And the Highland Fire, unfortunately that it did occur, did exactly what we thought it was going to do. And we were able to, with the help of our partners in the plains, the helicopters, the bulldozers, the firefighters, but quite frankly, also the community members that had invested a ton of time and effort in defensible space of their homes. That's what saved their homes. So the firefighters, we certainly were able to get the fire kind of headed off and stopped. But it burned through homes without firefighters there, and those homes are standing today because of the effort that the community members did on their own private property. They took the initiative to really tackle the problem themselves, and it shows. I don't have an official answer for you, but it's somewhere in the 2 million range of the cost of that fire.
I'm not down your firefighter, Billy.
I know
you're
not,
awesome,
yeah. No,
I'm a
there's only so
mountain
much-
firefighter,
yeah.
and so I kinda, I know it cools down during the evening times, but that's pretty hot fire going through there.
it burned really well, as you would expect in the middle of July with some wind and department, so.
Thank you.
Any other question for Ryan? Appreciate it, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, so now what? Now what, John? So you kind of go through the timeline of him? I mean, Ryan said it, but it goes to the,
So this is just a work session for you guys, just to kind of introduce you to what we're doing, and then so we'll bring this back to you guys for a formal recommendation. So this gets passed as a comprehensive plan amendment, so it's similar, to the code amendment or the DoD thing we just did, and so work session now. Our next one is the formal hearing where you guys would then make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Board of Commissioners has 2 hearings. If everything goes according to plan, some document will be passed as the TSP to replace what's in there now.
but it's just to get this as the overall picture in there. We're not choosing.
We're not choosing anything.
Right.
You're choosing what's important and what's most important and not as important.
And these are the options. This should be in the plan.
And you guys definitely have discretion to provide comment on that and say, I think that this project should be higher on the list, or this project should be lower, or any variations like that.
Gotcha.
On which page is the list?
So
It's in this one.
So you guys have the PowerPoint, do you have the real draft TSP?
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, do you remember what page
I think, I don't know if Ryan's still there,
I am still, let me, I've got the TSP open. Let's see. Page 26. So at the start of chapter 4, might not be 26 in your packets, but the start of chapter 4 has got the table with all of the summary of all the projects, and that improvement time frame is basically the priority level. So near, medium, or long term proposed priority level.
Isn't it?
it looks like it's there through 29, but there's also a table in this other one.
Yeah, is this the same table?
It looks different. In the handout that Katie gave us tonight corresponds with the map. And maybe that's in the big packet too, but the numbers look different is all. Unless I'm looking at something.
The dollar figures or the,
No, not the dollar figures, like, so it says project S5, S8, and the other one. It corresponds with the map, like 103, 105, or is it in here? Sorry.
I think it was on page 26, goes through each,
You have the big thick thing?
goes through all the Rs and all
Yeah,
that.
I'm looking at that one.
It's like that one.
Yeah, is that the same table?
It's not the same, it's not the same list.
Okay, this list is different than we got tonight.
Yes,
Okay.
this is the list that. he's
So we
referring
start
to.
on page 26 of the beginning.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
and the other thing I'll say about the priority level, right, is it's priority, but it's also recognizing how long it takes to get stuff done, right? Like the Juniper Canyon alternatives, I think are medium or medium long, all, so, you know, 5 years or longer, right? And that's just trying to acknowledge the fact that it will take time to get that project built.
So Ryan, Les Williamson, so since you're working on the city as well as the county, where are they on the O'Neill exchange by the bridge?
Exchange by the bridge.
Where O'Neill comes right into 126.
Oh, yeah, so for the TSP, which I had it handy, the project there is to modify that intersection with something similar to, if you're familiar where the Dairy Queen is in Redmond, which you might not be. I can provide something the next time I talk with you guys too, to show that if you're curious. But basically there's a big safety issue there.
You know, job, both,
The road dead
both
ends?
place.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Sorry, what was that?
Where the road dead ends?
Is the old Dairy Queen.
I don't know where that's at.
It's a Chinese restaurant now, isn't it?
Yeah. The interchange there.
If you bear with me for 2 seconds, I bet I can find this and pull it up real fast.
It looks like there's 12 near projects, 23 medium projects, and 9 long projects.
So, can you guys see that?
Yep.
This is not exactly the graphic I was looking for, but close enough. So essentially, the plan at O'Neill intersection is to build a raised median and separate traffic. So if you're heading northbound, you just stay on the right of it. If you want to take a left, you take a left. If you're approaching the highway here from O'Neill Highway and you want to take a left, you essentially have a protected lane to turn into with this configuration. And then they meet up as they go across the bridge. But the intent is to separate movements out a little bit, especially because that left turn is really problematic from a safety standpoint. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That's a tough intersection.
Yeah.
Ryan, has anybody ever talked about going through the golf course that the city owns and doing a bypass that way?
Yeah, we actually talked about that during the city's TSP, but it didn't get legs.
Too many golfers in the city.
So one of the things, this is Katie, one of the things that, could be helpful is, if there's anything, Ryan, for the public hearing, if there's anything in the city's TSP specifically that is going to have a closer interaction with the county's TSP, to just be able to highlight that. I know I've had some questions on Combs Flat and the intersection at Combs Flat and Lynn. And I've also had some questions from community members at the last meeting that we had in August about, so the community members live just south of where the proposed access would come down onto the Crooked River Highway. And they expressed to me they had felt unheard and not a part of the conversation, that it would directly impact them having that road then come out and impact them being able to get in and out of town, with the county fairgrounds right there, with the events that happen at the fairgrounds, with the events that happen at the, what is that, the ballpark, that having anything that the city may be doing with that intersection of Lynn, and how that could potentially, how those would flow together, would be helpful to have that information. So, if there's a way that we can kind of just make a few notes on what those intersections look like, or plans for, if they're included in the TSPs, because there's not very many places that the county and the city overlap, but we've definitely had some very direct questions on those areas.
Yeah, so when I come back for the hearing, I'll add some slides on some of those Prineville TSP projects. I think I can also dig up, we did some modeling to show if they build those additional new road connections, how much traffic it would take off Third. So I'll include some of that stuff, especially since for the hearing, I'm supposed to basically go through everything I just went with you again. So I'll have some new content. So I don't completely bore you.
Thank you.
Katie, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that's has an issue with this. This packet you gave us, is this map in the big packet?
No.
Oh, no wonder I'm lost. Okay, that's
I
why.
got these from
Yeah, football back
parametrics
and
today.
You're talking about the,
Right, I
you're
don't
talking
know
about
which
Juniper
one.
Canyon memo, right?
Yeah,
So that will, Ryan, that's gonna be in one of the appendices, right?
okay, so it will
Okay.
be in the main.
Yeah, it will
okay.
be. This doesn't have.
I was like,
It'll be
so
in
we're
there.
talking about it, but I don't see it in the main packet, okay. I'm better now, thank you. Okay,
This is Marlo. The only thing I could recommend, if it is an option, to not have a hard stop for the highway, Paulina Highway coming in. If you have a yield sign where, because you have a lot of large cattle trucks and such coming from Paulina Highway into town right there. And in the map you put up there, she kind of showed kind of veering to the left and then having to make a hard right, which that's hard for a lot of the larger trucks.
Yeah, so can I bring my screen one more time just to make sure I'm following? So this
Where Juniper Canyon comes in and hits 380.
right
So
here.
if you want to kind of realign, like you have it realigned is fine, but if you could keep Paulina Highway straight and have to yield rather than come in with a hard stop and then have a left turn lane onto Paulina Highway that was more of a straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the concept here also could include that slip lane, essentially.
Yes.
You know, one of the reasons we were trying to bring people to stop there was a safety concern. But I hear you about stopping large vehicles and making sure that they can navigate. I think if and when this moves forward, that we'd have to look at the turn radiuses at this intersection so that we're not making it difficult, right, for anybody to turn. And I do think it could include a slip lane. So that's, I think, discussion we could add to the TSP project.
This is Katie. So to address Commissioner Dell's concern with that, and I think everyone's, I know that the pictures and the graphics for the potentials are just that, potentials. So within the TSP, Ryan, in the document and what will be uploaded and amended, it will be clearer. Will those be a part of that, those potential alignments? Is that a part of what it will be adopted? And if it is it very clearly marked that these are concepts? Thank you, Russ.
Yeah.
Does that help, Commissioner?
That would help, you know, because if you're looking at that as the only option, is you're gonna come up and have to make a hard stop with the cattle trucks or horse trailers and whatnot. And rock trucks, there's a lot of rock trucks come down that way too.
Yeah, and yeah, in all cases, they're concepts, right? And they would go through a design process, and there would be that opportunity for feedback and input again. And I do think, you know, there's other than a slip lane, right? There's other ways to handle that too, right? Like similar to what we were proposed for the Bussett, Shumway, Powell Butte, where yes, we bring people to a hard stop, but we include an acceleration lane. So that it takes away that issue, or at least mitigates that issue. So I think I want to make sure that in the TSP, we memorialize that issue that you just identified in the description for that project at Juniper Canyon.
Thank you.
So this is Hunter. I get kind of a question going back to what Russ was talking about earlier on some of these subdivisions, not having proper access in and out up in Juniper Canyon. But I didn't really see anything in the transportation plan about alleviating some of their stress during fires.
Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, so this is Russ, and I'm gonna speak on behalf of the county, even though I don't work for the county, so you're all welcome. I apologize, one of the two. Where we run into a lot of concerns with the subdivisions is often those are private roads that were, you know, built and platted and are maintained privately. And so the county doesn't have any sort of ability to modify and or other than encourage, I guess, encourage some solutions. And so I think that's likely why it doesn't exist in this TSP is the TSP really is focusing on things that the county can touch and maintain and or construct, and those private roads fall out. I will let you know that I'm laughing because John and Katie and Hannah see me all the time, but the fire district and the county discuss those considerations, concerns often when it comes to private roads in the Juniper Canyon area, and quite frankly, all of Crook County, and just how do we move the needle on some of them. But my guess is that's why it's left out, Hunter, in the TSP, is they're not county roads.
Okay, thank you.
And this is Katie. For new development going into Juniper Canyon, as Ryan said, there's a lot of area up there that is still developable, zoned 5-acre parcel minimums. There are road standards and to and through standards. So there is actually a couple of large parcels that if they were to develop, if and when they were to develop, we could establish a few of those interconnections with existing subdivisions that are a one-way in, one-way out. as well as other potential, access points. However, until there's development, there is just not gonna be a part of that. And sometimes what we see with development is that it's a 6-phase planned unit development and 3 phases get built where the to and through access is in phase 6. So as a planning aspect of that, that's something that's on us, right? It's on the planning commission, it's on staff, it's on the private developers to see how we can better address the infrastructure for our community.
This is Monty. So I have a question regarding, there's quite a few projects on here that are basically ODOT projects. How do we determine, or how does that factor into the county's decisions about what's a priority? Or even projects that the ODOT is a part of, like something at Bellevue Highway and 126, like how does that interaction happen? And then how does that get prioritized in the mix of things that are just county and things that are just ODOT? Who decides that?
John, you want me to start? Or
Yeah, you can start.
okay. So part of you know, the county's TSP actually doesn't necessarily need to memorialize the improvements on the state facilities. That's not necessarily a requirement. But it's really important to basically as a document showing ODOT that this is a priority for the county. And so like an intersection like Bellevue Highway and 126, I think having it in the TSP goes a long way towards telling ODOT that like, look, we actually want to see this happen. The state, I think, as you all know, doesn't have a lot of discretionary transportation funds at the moment. And so when they're looking to spend those scarce funds, I think something like this helps to helps to focus their attention, right? Like I was saying, my experience has been that these kind of big projects on ODOT facilities get done when, is ODOT in the room, John?
There's no ODOT here today.
They get done when somebody tells ODOT it needs to happen, right? Whether it's the community or it's the commissioners or it's legislators, right? So
does that mean that you would prioritize those to the top of your list so that it gets to the top of their list or in their list?
yeah, that's the difficult part. Like, well, sorry, John, do you want to go ahead? Or
No, you go and then I'll go.
so wait, like Bellevue Highway, for example. Well, you know, there's some developer funding there already and other things, but like the state has this document called the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP, that they reevaluate every 3 years. And those are for projects like Bellevue Highway and 126. They're for your big investments on the state system. And generally those projects need to be in a plan. That project's already in ODOT's plan for 126. It's now very emphatically in the county's plan as a high priority. And but again, it doesn't mean it just automatically ends up in that funding program. Frankly, it takes lobbying to get it done. At least that's my perspective on it. Sorry, there's others' perspective out there.
I think you're right. We did speak with ODOT specifically about this, and there is a developer agreement that is also important. That was part of what the planning commission had done. This was with the Hidden Canyon destination resort and the terms of the MOA that is signed between ODOT, Crook County, and the developer, RMG Destinations. And in those discussions, ODOT said, funding, but having this in the plan, having this developer agreement, having things basically teed up and ready to go and showing that it is a priority for the county would give us the best chance for the next round of STIF grants, and getting that project moving. And so the closer we can get the project to the finish line, the more likely it is for ODOT to jump in and join. ODOT does have their own system, their own methodology for priorities, but we can control, and we need to get everything we can. Like I said, as close to the finish line as we can to get that project moving forward as fast as possible.
One other quick thing I'll add too is that the #1 killer of projects is if the state or others feel like the community is not all behind the project. And so, you know, memorializing it in the TSP again is showing like, look, everybody said they want this.
And the STIP is a statewide transportation infrastructure. So it's a statewide funding source.
Any other questions for? Since this is a work session, and we have two ladies in the audience, do you guys have any questions you'd like to?
I have a lot of questions, but it's been very informative.
Okay,
I think we both learned a lot, and, we have some big issues in Albion, as you know. And so, we are here because, Kurt and, Frank told us you better get attending these meetings.
okay, well, good.
We're gonna gather more people.
Gather your information
We,
and, yeah,
yeah, I can see it now, why they want people here.
yeah.
And thank you.
We all want people here, that's part of the process.
Yeah,
and
but
it's
we
really,
need to get it out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a lot to do, you guys.
Okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to recognize you and we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
One question, Ryan, what kind of plan do you have for when this does take place, rerouting the traffic? I mean, we haven't seen anything about that. When all this work's taking place, those are some major highways.
Yeah, and during design, one of the things they do right at the bat is a detour plan. So what is going to be the temporary access and all of that, but that typically doesn't occur at this stage. That occurs during the future, you know, preliminary 30, 60, 90 design process. But I can say confidently that they're not going to just close the highway. They would maintain access for sure.
Step at a time, or one step at a time.
I just think that taking the kids to Pal Beach to school.
any more questions?
Agreed, I have a question for staff. I didn't send out the whole packet, so it's on, I'm sure. I forget where it's going. The whole packet, so I'm missing some of the information. So my question is, will there be a new packet prepared based on what was discussed tonight for the public hearing on the 24th?
So what I've heard is that there'll be a little, Ryan, that you're going to put in something about the intersection at Juniper Canyon and Palina Highway to kind of memorialize the concern of traffic. But other than that, I didn't hear the commission make any recommendations for any other changes really to the transportation, to the draft or to the listing of priorities or anything like that. So we can, with that change, with that edit, do a new draft, or we can hold off on that as far as parametrics, but for a new packet wise, we'll probably use what we have and make sure if you all want a hard copy to please email me or the plan, because Hannah won't be here for the 24th. So if you email Hannah directly, you need to not do that. You're gonna have to email the plan email so that it goes to all of us. But I will be doing my best to run the meeting smoothly while she is gallivanting. And we can have, probably we'll work with parametrics to get a more concise, like this is the draft plan available next Wednesday, right? By next Wednesday. So maybe like we don't need like the addendums or the memos, but really to kind of button it up as to what this is the draft would look like and have that available. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Commissioner?
thank you.
Okay,
Well, yeah, because like we talked about, like, so this would be in the packet, the main package.
Ryan, the draft for the formal meeting before the planning commission in 2 weeks, that will have all the appendices, all the information in there, right? Will it or will it not at that point?
Yeah, we can have we should have all the appendices.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have one document.
Yeah.
I think my only other question is, would it make sense to stick all your near, medium and long projects? Lump them together? Versus having them spread out, scattered throughout? So that, because you think about this from anybody that comes and looks at it and they're like, oh, there's a near one, and then you get to the back of the list, there's another one, and they're spread out throughout the packet.
We could, yeah. We typically organize them by mode or like with the problem they're trying to address, right? So all the bike projects are lumped together, all the intersection projects are lumped together. But like, for example, in that summary table, we could reorganize it, as you suggest, by priority.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, and I mean, they're kind of right now, they're kind of like two, yeah, Pal, you've got Juniper Canyon, because a majority of what's in here, and then you've got a bunch of miscellaneous projects scattered throughout the county that are just like signage or miscellaneous or whatever. Does it make sense to put the, like, kind of make it simpler for people to look at it from a particular area?
I can see that makes sense both ways, by category,
Yeah,
also by timeline.
we might just add an additional,
Yeah.
an additional ranking by category. Or,
Do you see any issue with that, with just adding another table that has kind of priority timeline projects that lumps together different categories?
I think, yeah, I'm actually thinking we could just make that like part of the executive summary up front or something like that. So have a table both ways.
And the other reason I say is because the planning commission, I mean, the idea is that we put together is that planning commission kind of organizes priorities, right? For the near, medium and long, to then as a recommendation to go to the commissioners. Is that,
it's part of
did I
it.
understand that?
we're agreeing to what the priorities are.
Yeah.
But these aren't getting set in stone, right? So we can have a medium term that circumstances change over the next 20 years could be bumped up ahead of a short term, right?
And Ryan will be here during the hearing, so if there's any other questions. Or no?
Yes.
Yeah, I will be there.
He was thinking.
No, I'm gonna be there either in person. I'm trying to remember if I might be there in person.
Oh, okay. Well, we appreciate the explanation and going through it with us,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and thanks for the conversation about it.
Okay,
All right, yeah, I think we're ready to move on. Thank you, Ryan. Talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Community updates. I think Russ needs a name tag, because he's up here so much.
He's part of this, right? He's part of
Just
the
needs it, that's where he needs to stay.
He doesn't have a name tag, does he? We need one of these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I send that old?
Right underneath the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, not mistaken. Yeah.
It was a witness stand back in the day.
Community development updates. I will start, I guess, with, we just got our report for, August activity. It's not, I guess I haven't been in the job long enough. I feel like I have a good idea of what's the numbers are gonna show, but this time it kind of surprised me. On the building side, they had a very busy August. And I know that, staff they've been short-staffed. And so I'm really impressed with the numbers. They had 226 permits for the month of August, versus just 188 a year ago. Still up year over year and on the fiscal year. So that is very There's news, a lot of these are 61% residential, so there's still a lot of activity happening. Large projects, Apple Data Center, they are, there's a meeting tomorrow about a retrofit of Facebook's PRN1. They're gonna be implementing a different cooling system. I don't wanna get into, because I'll misstate it, but it sounds pretty exciting. I know there's another, I think it was a 90,000 square foot, I don't know if that's on here yet.
70,000.
70,000, for a facility that builds platforms for working on military aircraft. And so it sounds like it'll be a good project that'll have a lot of really good jobs, a lot of welders and that kind of thing up there.
What company is that?
Oh, I forgot the name.
It's called CB International.
Oh yeah, they're at Bend right now.
Yeah, they're moving to Burton.
Yeah, they're moving.
Yeah, it's 50th job.
I know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Isn't that good news? Yeah, it was exciting. Let's see here to discuss. On the planning side, this is one of the ones surprising because our numbers were down for August. Sure seems like we were busy. I know we're doing a lot of stuff. It maybe didn't show up here on these application list, but so there were 30 permits for the month of August. We are still up year to date. And so we're definitely still very, very busy.
When you say that, is that applications for
Yeah.
permits? Okay.
Some of our bigger applications that we're looking at here, so we have, we're gonna have Moffett Solar coming back to you guys in 2 weeks. Decent chance we'll be able to let you guys deliberate on that at that point. Mueller subdivision was signed. We have the Powell Butte Community Center, that's been continued. I think, do we have a date certain on that?
October 8th.
October 8th. TSP, you guys are well aware, we will have that heard again in 2 weeks, and then we'll go to the Board of Commissioners. We have another Powell Butte study zone map change coming up in August. We'll bring back our code updates to you guys tentatively in late August or October. I'm sorry, the zone map change is October too. It's been a long day. We have an appeal from Central Oregon Land Watch from administrative rescission that'll be coming to you guys in November. And then we have a Verizon Tower application. We're still reviewing. These would usually be an administrative decision, but this would likely be coming to you guys at some point early winter, maybe December. Notable city ones, that Best Care complex has been appealed, and I think that's going straight to Luba. And there's the addition to the gym, Calvary Chapel, a new RV park, modification to the Grace Place RV park. Another one that's surprising is septic numbers are up, at least for, so in August, there were 34 compared to 14 in the year prior. So a huge jump. I know that Chris has been busy helping out with the jurisdictions that are short-staffed, and so that number was surprising and encouraging. And then code compliance, Lewis opened 8 cases in the month and closed 5, and so pretty steady month for him. But
The land watch deal, what, but that's not, did you say that was on a decision?
That was on a non-farm decision. So it was
That we did?
no,
Oh,
staff did a non-farm decision, and Central Oregon Land Watch has appealed the wildlife calculation.
Gotcha.
The hearing is de novo though, so we're looking at that November to bring that before the planning commission. There most likely will be an airstrip, a private airstrip come in as well. That's not on this list, but we'll try to.
what part of the county?
Lone Pine, like right, almost on the county line.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions for?
Again, if you normally email Hannah alone, please let me know if you're gonna be here on the 24th, if you're not gonna be here on the 24th, or if it's a change, right? Otherwise, we're gonna go with the poll that she did. But again, if you need anything, you have any questions, just let me know.
I have one last thing, because I just like to talk, as you guys know, I'm not usually here for the community development update, so I just want to take this time, go on record, to tell the planning department, and really the building department, they're not here, and the commission, how much the fire district appreciates the working relationship that we have with staff and the commission. It's pretty impressive what this, your team here does with the resources and the people they have, with the volume of things that you guys deal with. And pesky fire marshals that are always knocking on your door, asking questions and doing things. So, building department's not here, but Randy and his team and I work, hand in hand, so it's really impressive how much he gets done, his team gets done, but I just wanted to.
Thank you, Russ. He's absolutely right. I take none of the credit. When I got here, I'm impressed every day with the work the staff does and what they're able to accomplish, the questions they're able to answer, and the problems they're able to resolve. Developers. It's very impressive. And I think I mentioned a couple months ago that other data center that the developer said this was like the best county they'd ever worked with, and they work all over the country. And so it's very impressive. Thank you, Russ.
Russ, since you know so many numbers, what's the cost estimate on the Cat Rock fire? Anybody throw any numbers out on that?
You know, I've not heard on the Cat Rock fire. I did have opportunity to go do a joint review with, insurance companies, the power company, a bunch of engineers that are way smarter than I am. That in of itself wasn't cheap to get all those engineers together to x-ray things and do all sorts of things, and no new information came out of it, unfortunately, but it's gotta be, it was a pretty good air show on the Cat Rock fire, even more so, quite frankly, than the Highland fire. So I don't know. I hate to go on, I'm not gonna, I know this isn't,
It's all right.
public record.
Yeah, no, it's
Necessarily, but, it's gotta be in that several, the $1 to $2 million. It wasn't as long a duration, and it didn't have like a type 3 incident management team, and then the structured task forces and all the things that came in on the Highland fire, which that's where a lot of the, believe it or not, it's not, the planes are certainly expensive, don't get me wrong. But 200 firefighters from out of the area, they're all getting paid to be here. That's where a lot of that cost comes in, and you're paying for the engines. And so, the Cat Rock fire, although it had maybe a better air show, didn't have that influx of structured task forces. And so it probably saved some money on that aspect, but certainly the planes, I think they spent way more money on the planes on that fire, so.
When, another question for us, but when subdivisions are, the applicant comes in, I know you meet with somebody, you have a review. Is there discussion about, hey, this is how maybe you should have in your CCRs about defense? I mean, you can't tell them what to do, but is there a conversation as you talk about defensible space and how much it obviously helped with the fire?
Yeah, great question. Short answer is yes. We historically have had those conversations. There's even been a couple subdivisions that the commission has approved that as conditions of approval had that they needed to follow the Crook County Fire Ready guidelines, which are the defensible space standards. Here, it's really a best practice document that the fire district has. We have those really, I think with every subdivision that comes in, that topic comes up. And also back to Hunter's question earlier about, solving some of the access issues with the legacy subdivisions. While it's difficult, we absolutely have that conversation, and manage that concern with all new applicants that come in. Is what are we doing for access, making sure we can get there, making sure it meets code, all those things. Then certainly discussing with the property owners, or the developer about defensible space standards and considerations. And the fire district offers to, really pre-site construction consultations if the private property owner, would like to ask those questions before they start doing landscaping and building their project. So we didn't always have that opportunity. What we did, it was just me. I now have an extra person that I've been able to hire, that has helped me with a lot of that and really helped increase up the district's capacity. And so I'll say it loud and clear. If any of you have anybody or you yourselves would like to meet with us one-on-one to talk defensible space, we have a program for that. So we will come out and spend as much time as you want. It's generally an hour or 2 hours. walking around somebody's property, and talking very specifically about what they can do on their specific property, so.
But you have, you said your standards, is there something on your website then? People-
Yeah, the Crook County Fire Ready documents on our website and the county's
On the county,
website,
right?
yeah.
Same document?
Same document.
Okay.
And one of the code changes in their last work session was to specifically add that language to our
Right.
subdivision review committees so that there's even more of a connection, a direct connection. So that our county code can then reflect and we're not stuck in this limbo of, well, we've been very lucky in asking for it and getting folks to do it, but actually having something codified.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's a great discussion topic. The fire district is not interested in requiring people do defensible space. We would love to have great opportunities to speak with people about what they can do to protect themselves, but the district doesn't have the capacity to require it and or
Right.
enforce something like that. I think we all remember Senate Bill 762 and the statewide wildfire risk map and the requirements that came with, I mean, that's what the state attempted, and I think it was obviously a little messy. And so the county and the fire district are currently working hand in hand to try to move the needle on that, while still, kind of respecting private property rights, right? It's a fine line, right? Having someone tell you what you have to do on your property versus suggesting good opportunities to protect your investment, so.
But your example you even said here tonight about the Highland Fire, about
Well, it absolutely works.
some of these, yeah, exactly. It's
Uh,
really
however,
good information.
On the other, you guys all get it, right? That's why you guys are here, planning commission, commissioners, right? It's that balance between rules and private property rights, and how do you manage that? And so there's probably not a,
You manage it or you don't have it.
yeah. So, yeah, more to come on that. I know that, like I said, the four of us here have had great talks about how defensible space interacts with county code. The fire districts, certainly has a good opinion on it, so.
Good.
More to come on that one.
Anything else?
What location is the hearing going to be? Cause I think this room's gonna be full of Val Butte people. On the 24th, the hearing,
It'll be here.
it's gonna be here, got enough room?
Sure.
The speaker spoke
Russ
about it.
knows the capacity of this room.
It's gonna be full.
Okay, I would entertain the motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Any discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
No?
Thank you.
50 people in here, huh, Russell?
So